I know a lot of you are tired. It seems like we've gone from crisis to crisis and back again. And who knows how long we'll be sheltering in place now. It feels like we're going to have to be settling in for an even longer haul than we did before. Some of us have had depression or anxiety or addictions triggered in this time. Some of us have been feeling isolated and lonely, while others of us have had family rifts open up in the midst of constant togetherness. Others have had lost jobs or feeling or are immunocompromised and feeling this constant undercurrent of fear that they might somehow get infected. I understand many of us right now are feeling like we would just rather just huddle under our blanket and check out. It's a season of suffering. It's a season of incredible challenge. But Christians have always been the kind of people who frame suffering in a way that we can snatch life from the jaws of death. And the Apostle Paul was no exception. When he was writing to the Corinthian church in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, he said this. He said, "We do not want you to be uninformed, brothers and sisters, about the troubles we experienced in the province of Asia. We were under great pressure, far beyond our ability to endure, so that we despaired even of life itself. Indeed, we felt we had received the sentence of death." Now, we don't know exactly what was going on with the Apostle Paul during this time, but it seems like he was probably being persecuted for sharing his faith in Jesus. Whatever was happening, it was so painful and it was so difficult for Paul that he said he despaired of life itself. It felt like he had been sentenced to death and he was just sitting on death row waiting for it to happen. But then he says this, "But this happened so that we might not rely on ourselves, but on God who raises the dead." You see, when you despair of life itself, the only hope you have is in the one who can raise the dead. Paul is saying that his suffering happened so that everything else would be stripped away. Every broken crutch that was cracked and ready to break apart, that he was leaning on for support, would be removed, and that he would be forced to ground himself in God. When you despair of life itself, the only hope you have is in the one who raises the dead. It's like a pruning process. In fact, I'll tell you what, the thing I hate most to do in my garden is pruning, specifically roses. I don't love the process of pruning roses back at the end of the season, because what you have to do, you have to hack them back so far, like almost to the root base. You hack them back so far, it feels like you're killing them. Like, how could they possibly survive this? But what you're actually doing when you're hacking back those roses is you are forcing them to take the energy that they might be sending into all these shoots and blossoms, and forcing them to put that energy into growing stronger and deeper roots so that they can bloom all that more colorfully in the spring season. For many of us, this season feels like a pruning. It's a stripping away of all of the other things that we might be putting our energies into so that we can root down deeply into God. I want to encourage you, if that's how you're feeling this season, if you're feeling the weight and the pressure of the suffering, that you would root yourself down deeply into God. Take this time to do that and make the words of Paul your own. But this happened so that we might not rely on ourselves, but on God who raises the dead. That's your thought for the day.